Absolutely. And Ron's on here today. We're going to talk about, whatever comes to mind for him. However, in this market with buyers, inventory is sitting a little bit longer. What can we do to, tighten up our offers and make sure our offers are getting accepted? And then we have a couple of other topics we're going to talk about when it comes to, filling out the contract and working with buyers and getting that buyer agreement signed. Those are some of the things that we are going to be able to talk about today. Plus, I have a question from Rachel. So, Ron, without further ado, man, I so appreciate you being here. I think one thing I'm always impressed with about you, Ron, is that you know your lore, you know your numbers. If I asked you, I don't know, Ron, let me ask you, how many active properties are there in Fairlawn, New Jersey today?
26. And 25 if you take off the one that got highest and best yesterday.
Okay, so let me stop right there. If y'all can't spit your numbers out like that, you need to start learning your numbers, especially if that's your market. I should be able to ask you how many active, how many sold, how many days on market. I know I can ask Ron that because every morning that's his routine to look at the numbers. I love that. So Ron, I'm going to give you the floor, man. You know, the couple things that we want to talk about, and then I'd love to leave about 5, 7 minutes at the end just for some Q&A if you're okay with that.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Many of you actually don't know me because I haven't been on here for a while. Sorry about that. My apologies. I really need to show up more. The first thing I want to do is really thank you for being here today. And the goal of today's conversation is to provide you guys value and as much value as I possibly can. All right, guys. So we're going to get into it. My name is Ron Lugashi with the Zamir Group, Keller Williams Village Square, technically at Ridgewood. We do have our mega agent office in Fairlawn, and I'm here to serve. So let's get going. Market conditions. Let's talk about market conditions. What kind of market conditions are we in? And I will share with you that if we don't have something, we can't give it. If we don't know something, we can't share it. That means if we don't know the market conditions, then how are we ever going to communicate it to our buyers and sellers? So, what kind of market conditions are we in?
I would say we're in a shifting market a bit, but we're still in the seller's market.
What else?
I would say an interesting market.
Or challenging.
Every market has its share of challenges, right? And every market is interesting in its own way. So, what I'll share with you guys is that, yes, we are in a very strong seller's market, as Betty said. Um, if you're looking at months of inventory, we have just shy of above 2 months of inventory in all of Bergen counties for single family homes go. Bergen County as a whole has 800 single family homes active as of last night. And that is a little bit higher. Actually, it's much higher than what it was 3 months ago. 3 months ago, back in May, it was almost half that. We were in the fours. It was its lowest point that I saw was 455 single family homes active. Now, we have 70 towns in Bergen County, New Jersey. That's still not enough homes. Now, the majority of those homes, they're overpriced, sure. They're overpriced by different amounts. So that's where we come in too. The ratio is typically 80-20. Now, going back to explaining what's the phenomenon, what happened between May, June, July, what happened in the very few months where the inventory almost doubled as far as active single family homes go in Bergen County. More people wanted to sell. They're not selling as quickly. Days on market went from 35 to 45 days. So, did the buyers disappear? What do you guys think? Is the demand still there? Why is supply
I,
increasing? Not increasing enough. It has to increase tenfold, but it's increasing.
I think the buyers are fatigued and also because of the, high interest rates. So I
And
think those two things combined together, buyers are
yeah,
taking a
and it's
pause
it's
a little
possible for
bit.
some. It's possible for some of them, Betty. Yet what I see is people are still paying. Now,
I do.
there's if we look at the numbers, numbers always tell a story, right? So the numbers are really, really important because it takes emotion out of it. We can just look at the numbers. Numbers say that the highest median price in Bergen County's history happened when? For a single family home.
Likely
Yes, it
during COVID.
So, yeah.
was actually last month, June. Highest numbers ever. The median price in Bergen County, New Jersey was 877,000. When was the second highest number ever for a median price? in Bergen County.
May.
I was gonna say May, right?
A month before that. So what does that tell us? The
There's
people are
still
still
enough.
paying.
Yeah,
People are still
sellers.
paying. So yeah, no, the sellers are still getting top dollar. They're getting more than they ever did. Um, it's amazing to see that the prices are still high, even with the high prices and the high interest rates. People are still buying. The demand is still there. What I'm seeing on the ground is that listing agents and sellers are just pricing their properties higher. So you're seeing, if you're pricing it correctly, you're still seeing multiple offers. Multiple offers is still the name of the game. Still story of my life. I'm still seeing it right and left. Of course, depends what price range you're working in. But in my price range, in my neck of the woods, yeah, it's multiple offers all the time. So if you're pricing something correctly, the buyers come out and they come out big. You'll get 5, 8, 10, 12 offers if you price it correctly. That's a pricing strategy, listing strategy, negotiation strategy on the list side. How you do that, that's your business. But if you underprice it or price it correctly, you'll get multiple offers. You'll see 30, 40, 50 people, 100 people come to your property over a weekend. The buyer's still out there. The demand is high. They're just, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe reluctant, right? Because of the higher prices. So that's what I'm seeing on the ground. Anybody want to add to that, what they're saying?
Well, Ron, I have a comment on here from Instagram from Rachel, and she says, buyers seem to be circling around more. They're pretty reluctant to pull the trigger, especially like in her market, the condo market. So she wanted to know, are there any strategies you recommend to get them to pull the trigger and get off the sidelines?
Yeah. So in any market, buyers need to be what?
Coachable,
Educated.
motivated, and coachable.
Yep.
Motivated,
What do they need to be?
I would
Ready,
say
ready,
willing, and
willing, and
able.
able.
right.
Ready, willing,
Ready,
and
willing, and
able.
able. And an A-plus
Hmm.
buyer in today's environment has not changed. My definition is yes, they have to be ready, willing, and able. Yet they also have to be willing to do whatever it takes in order to obtain. So if you don't have a buyer that's willing to do whatever it takes, they're going to be on the sidelines for a little bit longer. Not forever. They'll eventually obtain something, but it's going to take a little bit longer, right? So when we have a buyer reluctance or sense of urgency isn't so high, that's fine. And they may not just be ready. You have to decide how much time, energy, and effort you want to invest into this particular client. Buyers can lose focus, what drives them sometimes. Maybe get focused on price. A lot of buyers buy into that old myth that they want to try to time the market because they're not trying to overpay. But in today's environment, it's still compete or go next a lot of the times. But going back to the product where I said, yeah, there's always two types of product: the overpriced, about 80% of in any town, to 20% that's priced correctly or even underpriced. It's our job to know which is which. It's not their job because they don't know. They don't do this on a day-to-day basis. We do. So that's where our expertise comes in. That's where we're going to consult, advise, give them all the information so they can make a good real estate decision, right? So we're the advisors, we're the experts, we're the consultants. Um, we always have to remind them, we you buy right and you do well over time, right? Just just have to go back to that motivation to, if they want to continue leasing or they want to continue living with their family or they want to continue living in a hotel or they, whatever that motivation is, we always have to go back to that. We have to educate them. And we also have to build trust because without the trust in us, they're less likely going to do whatever it takes in order to obtain.
And Ron, I heard you say an A buyer. So for the agents on here that are new, that are starting to work with buyers and they're spending a lot of time with folks that are reluctant, what's the easiest way you can tell them to break down their pipeline and how to categorize who an A buyer is, who a B buyer is, who a C buyer is?
What we have to discover what type of buyer they are, and the way that we discover is through conversation. Best conversation to have is something called a buyer consultation, presentation, strategy session, whatever you want to call it. We can conduct a buyer consultation, or we can only discover that they're a C buyer after showing them 30 homes. It's up to us. Um, I definitely recommend spending 30 minutes over showing them 30 homes to discover what type of buyer they are. Going back to the conversation that you had with Michelle just before, the number one script that we should be internalizing, and every person that we meet, we're going to pre-qualify them, right? We're going to ask them basic questions, and they're going to answer the questions. I've never, if you ask the questions, you'll discover that people will answer the questions. And for those people that are not answering the questions, if they're a rare breed, they're the exception. You probably don't want to be working with them anyway. So it's important to internalize that pre-qualification script, discover as much information as you can while communicating value at the same time. And it's the best way to discover if they're an A, B, C, D buyer.
Ron, I'm putting you on the spot here. On the Friday, would you be willing to join the Friday script practice and actually go through what a great buyer consultation looks like and role play that out with an agent?
Yeah, sure. How much time do we have?
Today, you mean on
Oh,
Friday?
on Friday.
Friday, I'll give you a whole hour if you need it.
Okay, then that's good enough for a whole class. We do a
Okay,
buyer consultation class.
I'll
And
schedule.
then part of that will be a role play.
Good, good. I want to be able to really break this down because I know a lot of people.
Thank you.
Right. We need it, don't we? We need that, man, because people are just going out and they're meeting. And like you said, Ron, they're showing people 30 and 40 houses before they decide to have that conversation. And they start realizing pretty quickly they've been wasting their time spending time with C buyers where they should be focused on the A's. So, yeah, we'll definitely get that scheduled this month.
So the what it looks like is it's going to be about 30 minutes of class time, 17 to 25 minutes of the actual present role play, which depends how many questions the um, whoever's being the buyer has, and then Q&A at the end.
Love it. Love it. We're wrapping up pretty quickly, so I want to see if anyone has any questions for you because I want to give them an opportunity to ask their questions. Go ahead and raise your hand if you guys. Michelle, go ahead, please.
First of all, Ron, thank you so much for your presentation today and information that you shared. And one of the things that I wanted to know is specifically what are the numbers that you're looking at on like I know at the top of the month and then also on a daily basis. I know that you're looking at active souls, days on market. Is there anything else that you're focusing or lasering in on?
But I'm down to take it. I always recommend agents take it a little bit deeper than that. When I'm looking at numbers, I'm looking at it on a daily basis, not necessarily monthly or quarterly. If you're looking at monthly or quarterly, you kind of lose touch as to what's going on. If if you have a particular niche or area of expert, or if you a product or an area, it could be a product, it doesn't have to be an area. Like if you're an expert in condos, you might want to know what's going on with the condo market. But definitely the actives. But if you're in a niche, like if you're in Bergenfield, well, you might want to know that there's 17 active in Bergenfield. And if you're in Elmwood Park, you might want to know that there's 10 active in Elmwood Park. So and beyond that, the step further to increase that level of expertise, go see them. So a little bit of footwork. Just go see all the active. Now, how many homes in your particular area, in your particular town, are new per week? One house, two house, three properties. There's not that many. So how long would it take to see one, two, three, four properties? Not very long at all. You could probably get it done in a quick 30 to 40 minutes, depending on geography, how far they are from each other. When we go preview a property, we're in there for like not even 3, 4 minutes. We're pretty much in and out. We're not going to spend too much time in there yet. If the first time we see a property is with a client, it's a different kind of experience. They might be in there for a half hour knowing that they're not going to be interested in the house anyway. So it's of value to us and it's of value to the client. We're actually seeing the properties beforehand, so that when we get those phone calls or we get those clients, we've already seen the inventory. We're very familiar with the inventory. We're experts in the inventory. Beyond that, in your locales, you might want to know the local schools. You might want to know the transportation. You might know the best places to eat, best places to closest highways. All the basic information that a buyer might ask. You might want to get familiar with it. That'll increase your level of expertise. That'll also increase the likelihood that you're able to communicate value, and it increase the likelihood that they'll hire, choose us, work with us.
I love that. Trina, I'll give you the final question. Go ahead, Trina.
Good morning, everyone. Ron, thank you very much. My question is along the lines of Michelle as well. But what if you don't, you answered pretty much everything, but what if you don't really concentrate on one specific area? What would you suggest for the agent that maybe works with multiple buyers in Bergen, Essex, Hudson County? Like, what should they do?
You're going to be scattered, especially as a new agent. You're going to be all over the place. You're going to take any piece of business that comes your way, which is fine. Whatever those clients are interested in, uh, get familiar with that type of inventory. So if you have a client that's interested in a certain price point in a certain area, just get familiar with that price point in that area. You don't have to go see a bunch of homes. If it's 45 minutes away, go see the two or three that happen to be in the price range. I get from the same thing, there's, by going on Google, it's easy enough to see what the transportation is like, what schools they have, just basic information about the town population, like that.
And their go-to to that should solely be their MLS.
Yeah, the MLS, all the information on the MLS, depending on, unfortunately, New Jersey, we have several MLSs. So it just depends what area you're working, of course.
All right.
Thank you.
Ron, I'll be reaching out to you maybe for the 18th of July. I'll get you a couple dates and we can figure out when you'll come back and actually do that buyer consultation class. I really appreciate that, man. I know it's going to bring so much value to everyone on here that's spending a lot of time working with B and C buyers, and they really need to be focused on the A's and learn how to determine who is an A. So I appreciate your time this morning. It's good to see you. And like Ira said in the comments, man, no need to apologize for not being here. And yet every time you come, you provide value. So we'd love to see you more.
For having me. Have a great day, everybody.
All right. Brenda, what's up, B? Where you at?
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
We're doing fantastic. We're ready to hear a word from you.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, be thankful for all the struggles you go through. They make you stronger, wiser, and humble. Don't let it break you, let it make you. Changes will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Have an amazing day, guys.